moment in every person's financial journey when everything changes. At first, you don't even notice it because for a long time, it feels like nothing is happening. You check your account again and again, and it barely moves. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. Nothing that feels meaningful. You save, you invest, you try to stay disciplined. Maybe you skip things you enjoy. Maybe you cut back in small ways. And still, progress feels slow, painfully slow, almost like you're stuck in the same place. Like no matter what you do, you're not really moving forward. And that's the part no one talks about. Because this phase isn't just difficult, it's invisible. There's no feedback, no reward, no clear sign that what you're doing is working. And that's exactly what makes it dangerous. And because when effort feels invisible, people quit, not because they lack discipline, but because they lack evidence. They assume it's not working, when in reality, it just hasn't started yet. And then one day something changes. You check your account again, and something feels different. Not dramatic, not life-changing overnight, but enough to make you stop and look twice. Because now your money is growing, even when you're not doing anything. You didn't invest extra that day. You didn't work longer hours, but your numbers still went up. And that's when it hits you. Something has shifted. That's the moment most people never reach. Not because they can't, but because they quit too early, right before things start to work. Because here's the truth most people never understand. Wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows quietly, slowly, and then suddenly fast, like a snowball rolling downhill. At the top, it's small, almost insignificant. You can hold it in your hand. It doesn't feel powerful. But as it moves, it picks up speed, capacity, momentum, until eventually you're not pushing anymore. It's moving on its own. And once it reaches that point, it becomes very hard to stop. That's how wealth actually works. And in that journey, there are three specific points where everything starts to change. Not randomly, not emotionally, but mathematically. First milestone, $100,000, the hardest phase. This is where almost everyone struggles because this phase is boring. There's no excitement, no big wins, no breakthrough moment, just consistency, day after day, month after month, doing the same things with very little visible reward. You're doing all the work, saving money, investing regularly, staying disciplined. And most of your growth is coming from you, not your investments. Let's make this real. Imagine you invest around $500 a month. That's not easy, but it's realistic for many people with effort. Now, here's the part most people underestimate. It can take around 7 to 8 years just to reach your first $100,000. Think about that, nearly a decade for your first milestone. And during that entire time, it feels slow because most of that money is your contribution, not growth. Your money isn't working hard yet. You are. That's why it feels like pushing a heavy rock uphill. Every step takes effort. Every inch feels earned. And sometimes it even feels like you're going backward. This is where people start doubting. Why is this taking so long? Is this even worth it? Should I try something faster? And this is where most people lose because they confuse slow progress with no progress. But this stage isn't about speed. It's about building capacity. This is where habits are formed. Discipline is built. Consistency becomes your identity because what you're really building is the foundation. And the foundation is always the hardest part. No one sees it, no one praises it, but everything depends on it. And once you reach around $100,000, something changes. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Your money finally starts helping. Not a lot, but enough to feel, enough to realize you're no longer doing this alone. The misconception that keeps people stuck. Here's where most people make a critical mistake. They think, if I'm at $100,000, I'm only 10% of the way to $1 million. Sounds logical. But it's completely wrong because wealth doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially, which means the first $100,000 is not 10% of the journey. It's closer to the hardest half because getting from zero to momentum is harder than scaling momentum. And if you quit here, you never see what happens next. Second milestone, $500,000 to $700,000. Momentum, this is where things start getting interesting because now your money starts doing real work. You're still investing, but your returns are no longer small. They're noticeable. Let's go back to that example. If you keep investing consistently, you might go from $100,000 to $200,000 in about 5 years. Notice that shift. It took almost 8 years to reach $100,000, but only about 5 more to double it. That's compounding starting to take over. And as your portfolio grows, the growth becomes visible. You might open your account and see it go up by thousands without doing anything. And then one day you realize something crazy. Your investments are earning almost as much as you are. Maybe not every year, but some years it happens. Think about that. You worked all year, showed up every day, traded your time for money, and your money kept up. That's when everything shifts. Because now you're not starting from zero every month. You have momentum, and momentum changes everything. Because now there's something working in the background, something growing quietly every single day. And with that comes relief, less pressure, less urgency, less fear, because your life no longer depends entirely on your next paycheck. And that changes how you think. Why this stage changes your life? This isn't about luxury, it's about control. When your money starts working for you, you stop making decisions out of fear. You stop saying yes to things you hate just because you need the money. You stop feeling trapped. You start thinking long term. You start making better decisions. You start choosing instead of reacting. That's real wealth, not cars, not status, not showing off, but the ability to choose your life. Third milestone, $1 million, the mental shift. This is where everything changes psychologically because $1 million is not just a number. It's proof. Proof that the system works. Proof that consistency pays off. Proof that you didn't need luck, just time and discipline. At this level, your money is doing serious work. At a modest 7 to 8% return, that's $70,000 to $80,000 per year. That's close to a full-time income generated without trading your time. And when you realize that, fear starts to disappear. Fear of losing your room, fear of running out of money, fear of being stuck. And when that fear disappears, your entire mindset changes. You stop thinking like someone trying to survive and start thinking like someone in control. What happens after $1 million? Here's where it gets interesting. The game doesn't end. It actually gets easier because now your money is large enough to grow significantly on its own. To go from $1 million to $2 million, you don't need to double your effort. You just need time. Because compounding is now doing the heavy lifting. Each dollar you have starts creating more dollars, which then create even more. It's a loop, and once you're inside it, growth accelerates. This is why wealthy people focus on staying invested, because they understand the hardest part is already done, the truth about market crashes. Now you might be thinking, what about crashes? What if everything drops? Here's what most people don't understand. If you're investing consistently, crashes actually help you. Because when prices fall, your money buys more shares, more assets. And when the market recovers, those extra assets grow even more. That's how long-term investors win, not by avoiding crashes, but by staying in the game long enough to benefit from them. The real secret. None of this works if you don't stay consistent. That's it. It's not about timing the market. It's not about finding the perfect investment. It's about staying in the game because time is doing most of the work. Or yet now you might feel stuck, like nothing is working, like progress is too slow. But you're not stuck. You're early, and early always feels hard. But if you keep going, if you stay consistent, if you give it time, There will come a moment where everything starts to accelerate. And when that moment comes, you'll realize something powerful. You were never behind. You were just building momentum. And once momentum starts, everything changes.